Hey, Magic the Gathering players and collectors. It is time to jump into Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. I have an excellent deck here created by my roommate that lives here in the home, specifically for ninjas, and includes many of the new Kamigawa Neon Dynasty cards. So I just wanted to kind of share this with you. It's a really cool deck. It leans heavy on the aggro, and there are other ways to build this deck where you can bang out really huge spells and everything. And I think the build he was going for here is a lot of use of ninjas. So it really, really emphasizes what you can do with ninjas and how you can kind of get them in and do all kinds of cool effects when they jump in and all that good stuff. So why don't we do it and jump into this deck and see what we got going on. So commander is going to be Yuriko, the Tiger Shadow. Of course, she's a legendary creature, human ninja. She has Commander Ninjutsu for black and a blue. Obviously, Ninjutsu, just to kind of go over this rule, because it isn't a thing that's been around except for, like Kamigawa a long time ago. And there's been some cards printed, I think, in Modern Horizons that include the Ninjutsu ability. You can return a unblocked attacker you control to your hand. You put the card into a battlefield from your hand, or in the command zone, tapped and attacking. So when you want to use the ninjutsu ability, you swing with a creature that is then unblocked, and if it gets through, then you can pay the ninjutsu, and then of course swap that for a ninja, which is kind of cool. A neat little sort of surprise ability because somebody doesn't really expect it's coming, Now let's go ahead and jump into the 99. Now, of course, before I do that, let me go ahead and just cover this little paragraph here on the bottom. This is really important because this allows you to go get some stuff off the top of your deck. Whenever a ninja you control deals combat damage to a player, reveal the top card of your library and put that card into your hand. Each opponent loses life equal to that card's converted mana cost. So that's going to be really super brutal really fast. So some people play ninja decks where they have really super high cost creatures or random things at the top of their deck. And they pull that stuff like expropriate or, some kind of really high cost card. They'll flip it that way. Now, this deck is more geared toward getting ninjas out and a lot of ninjutsu abilities and interesting things to, get your ninjas out and synergize them with other ninjas in play or other cards in play. So why don't we go ahead and jump into the other 99 and see what we've got going on. So we just have some of our basic lands here. You got to admit, the art on these is absolutely stunning. Magic... Once upon a time, a basic land that was in full art was a big deal. Yes, they print it in every set now, it seems like. But I gotta admit, they're just so beautiful. Let's take a look at this one. As you can see, this is a swamp. Oh my goodness, so pretty. And of course, we have some islands. We got a few islands here. I'm just gonna skip through some of those. And we do have even more islands. There's two versions of this. I think there's an English version and then an actual Japanese version. So you can kind of see these really pretty stuff. All right, let's go ahead and hit some of these non-basics and see what we got going on here. So first non-basic is going to be Access Tunnel. You're going to want to see why you'd want to use this card. Obviously, target creature with power 3 or less can't be blocked this turn. So if you swing into with something and it gets through, well, then you can ninjutsu out a ninja into play. So it's really kind of cool. Next we got is Rogue's Passage. It's the same idea you pay for, and the target creature is unblockable this turn. So it allows you to go do some cool things, especially with either your commander or one of the other ninjas. Next we got is Reliquary Tower. I'm not going to really explain that. You just basically have no maximum hand size. So if you're drawing a lot of cards, getting those in your hand, well, then you're going to want a Reliquary Tower. Next we got is Otawara, the Soaring City. This one's new from Kamigawa, Neon Dynasty. It's a legendary land. You can tap it for regular, island blue mana. Or you can pay its channel cost for 3 and a blue, discard it. You can return a target artifact, creature, enchantment, or planeswalker to your hand. This ability costs 1 less to activate for each legendary creature you control. So really super helpful there. Next we got is Bojuka Bog. With Bojuka Bog, you can basically just exile someone's graveyard. So helpful for some graveyard hate against a player who's running a lot of stuff out of their graveyard. Next we got is Shizo Dest Storehouse. You can tap it to add a mana, of course a swamp or black mana. You can pay 1 and tap it, and target legendary creature you control gains fear until end of turn. So that's another way to get one of your cards through so you can get a ninja out. Really kind of cool. We got Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth. Each land is a swamp in addition to its other land types. So super, super good stuff. We got Creeping Tar Pit, also known as Creepy Carpet. Really with this one, it's what they used to call a man land. Creeping Tar Pit becomes a 3/2 blue and black elemental creature until end of turn and can't be blocked this turn. It's still a land, so you can kind of turn it into stuff. And of course, the whole idea is you want to try to get things in and have them unblocked. That's really the goal with this type of deck. Next we got is Darkwater Catacombs. It's basically you pay the 1 and you can turn it into the 2, so that's super helpful. I got a filter land here. Of course, you can pay that color mana and turn it into 2 or that. Just gives you some options as far as your mana color and mana fixing and such. We got Shipwreck Marsh. It enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or more other lands. Polluted Delta. I don't really need to explain this too much. It's obviously a fetch land. Remember with one of these, you can also fetch a shock land with a card like this, so it's also useful. Morphic Pool. It's pretty much a must-add in a deck like this. Obviously, you can tap it for blue-black, but it comes into play untapped in a commander, usually a multiplayer commander game. So definitely if you're playing, obviously, 3 or 4 players, you're going to want to put this in your deck. Next we got is Underground River. You just take 1 damage to get the black or the blue, so super cool. Next was Tainted Isle. You can tap it to add blue or black to your mana pool. Activate this ability only if you control a swamp. We got Drown Catacombs. Obviously, you can see what it does. Same idea. It's going to be Watery Grave. Here's our shock land. Obviously, you can put it into play untapped, but you got to take 2 damage. In turn 1, unless you have a 1-drop, then you can probably just bring it in untapped because you don't want to take the 2 damage for no point, you know, if it's a card you play first turn. Sunken Hollow. It enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or more basic lands. Rain of Tear, or River of Tear, excuse me. You could tap it to add a blue to your mana pool. If you played a land this turn, you can also add black to your mana pool instead. So that gives you some options. Next we got is going to be Unclaimed Territory. Great for tribal decks, considering there's a lot of tribal ninja type in here. You're going to want to play a land like this because you can add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool, and you spend this mana only to cast a creature spell of the chosen type. So super cool. We got a new tribal-related land here coming out of Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. Obviously, you can add it and just get colorless, or you can add 1 mana of any color, spend this mana only to cast a creature spell of the chosen type, or activate an ability of a creature or creature card of the chosen type. So there's a lot of cool stuff on there. Not only can you use this to cast a creature, but you can also activate abilities on those creatures as well. So I think this is a really, really cool card. Expect this to eventually go up in value pretty quick. You'll see. Cavern of Souls. The Cavern of Souls, if you got one, if you can afford one, whatever, definitely a must in any tribal deck. Because when you spend the mana, the creature that you cast, obviously, they can't be countered. So someone can't just, mana leak it or just, counterspell it or something. You basically can still play your thing. It's not counterable. Reliquary Tower, or excuse me, Command Tower. I'm not going to go ahead and get into that. It's kind of obvious what a Command Tower does. Alright guys, we will now go into some of this other stuff here. Let's go ahead and check out the Mana Rocks. Let's go see what we got. So, Soul Ring, not going to get into that too much. Thought Vessel, again, it's about getting a situation where you don't have to worry about your hand size. Good Mana Rock, and tap it for 1. That's good. Mind Stone gives you an extra card draw when you need it. Good Mana Rock. Sky Diamond. You can add a blue mana with the Sky Diamond. Charcoal Diamond obviously gets you a black. Talisman of Dominance. You can tap it to add a blue and a black. And of course it deals 1 damage to you. So it's kind of like the Pain Land from earlier, but it's on an artifact. So definitely pretty cool. Next we got is going to be Dimir Signet. It's very similar to that other land, just on a artifact. So it's another mana rock. And last will be Arcane Signet. So that concludes all the mana rocks. Why don't we do this? Let's go and jump into the artifacts. So this came out of course, one of the recent sets, the D&D set we just went through. So when Thieves' Tools enters the battlefield, create a treasure token. Now, equipped creature can't be blocked as long as its power is 3 or less. So again, the idea with this type of deck is you need to get creatures in unblocked so that Ninjutsu can trigger, or you can get the commander's Ninjutsu to trigger. So with this, you would attach it to a creature that maybe one of your other ninjas or something else kind of cool that you're doing. So really a good card for that purpose. Next we got is going to be Winged Boots. What creature has flying and ward 4. So again, another way to get your creature in. And of course, give yourself some protection. Not that expensive to get out. I noticed the 2 casting cost here, or mana value, whatever, and then of course the equip one's not too bad to give it flying and give it ward. That was kind of cool. We got a card here. Let's take a look. Prowler's Helm. Equipped creature can't be blocked except by walls, and it's equipped for 2. And then last we got is equipped creature is unblockable and has Shroud, and you can equip it for 2. Looking good there. And then let's see what else we got here. It's going to be okay, so this is your tutor. Obviously, you can search your library for a card, then shuffle your library and put that card on top of it. You lose 2 life. Vampiric Tutor is pretty much a great add in any deck at this point that runs black. It only costs 1 mana to put out, and you can go get stuff. So super, super helpful and useful. Next we got is going to be Psych Rift. I mean, I don't need to explain what this card does. If you're playing Commander and you're running a deck with blue in it, the chances of having a Cyclonic Rift in it are absolutely, it's really super high. So, it's really super crazy out there. Next we got is Mana Drain. You can counter a target spell at the beginning of your next main phase. Add an amount of mana or colorless mana to your mana pool equal to that spell's converted mana cost. So super useful. Primal Command. This has been a card for a long time, but you can choose 2. You can counter target spell, or you can return target permanent to its owner's hand. Tap all creatures your opponents control. That allows your stuff to get in, obviously. And you can draw a card, so it's super, super helpful. Alrighty, next we got is going to be, looks like Kayato's Pursuit. And let's see if I can get this a little bit. There we go. Target player discards 2 cards. Ninjas and rogues you control, again, menace until end of turn. So super helpful there. Next we're going to look at is going to be Baral's Expertise. Return up to 3 target artifacts and or creatures to their owner's hands. You may cast a card with converted mana cost 4 or less from your hand without paying its mana cost. So super useful there. Next one we're going to look at is right here. We've got Smoke Shroud. You enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets a +1/+1 and has flying. When a ninja enters the battlefield under your control, you may return a Smoke Shroud from your graveyard to the battlefield attached to that creature. So you can kind of see how this can sort of trigger and go to graveyard and come back and do all kinds of cool things if you know how to use this properly. Definitely a cool card. We do have 1 planeswalker in here. Of course, he comes from, obviously, Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. His name is Kayato Shizuki. It costs a black, a blue, and any legendary planeswalker. At the beginning of your end step, if Kayato Shizuki entered the battlefield this turn, he phases out. So basically vanishes. I guess that makes sense. He's a ninja, so he just poof, disappears. And then, of course, he'll come back. His +1 is to draw a card, then discard a card unless you attack this turn. You create a 1/1 blue ninja creature token with this creature can't be blocked. So again, another useful way to get your other ninjas out of your hand into the battlefield. You get an emblem with whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, Search your library for a blue or black creature card and put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. So if somebody lets him stay on the battlefield too long, well, you can see where that's going if they don't get rid of this planeswalker. So he's really useful in a ninja deck. So, of course, we got our little emblem here. I want to take a pause and take a look at some of this cool stuff we got going on here. It's an Ava. Oh, an Ava. I love it. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the actual ninjas. So these are all our ninjas. There's a whole bunch of them. So we're going to just kind of start pulling ninjas and kind of go over some of these. So first ninja I'm going to pull up here is Thousand-Faced Shadow. It has ninjutsu, of course. There's the ninjutsu cost. I guess ninjutsu. I probably should just say ninjutsu, since it isn't a U. When Thousand-Faced Shadow enters the battlefield from your hand, if it's attacking, create a token that's a copy of another target attacking creature. That token enters the battlefield tapped and attacking. So you can definitely see I can kind of like double this guy up. So it's really kind of cool. I just thought that was a really neat ninja. Next we're going to look at is Spark Double. You may have Spark Double enter the battlefield as a copy of a creature or planeswalker you control, except it enters with an additional +1/+1 counter on it if it's a creature. It enters with an additional loyalty counter on it if it's a planeswalker, and it isn't legendary if that permanent is legendary. So it's super useful in a deck where you're trying to get two things. And if you notice something here, it isn't legendary if the permanent is legendary. So you could copy your commander. You think about that. Very useful. Interesting. I always like this card in a lot of decks that run blue or tribal decks that have blue creatures in it. One of my favorites, actually. Super useful to do some interesting shenanigans with. Next we're going to take a look at is going to be Moon Circuit Hacker. It's an ninjutsu, of course. Whenever Moon Circuit Hacker deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card unless Moon Circuit Hacker enter the battlefield this turn. Next we got is going to be Prosperous Thief. You can see his ninjutsu cost. Whenever one or more ninja or rogue creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, create a treasure token. This guy is so super useful. Treasure tokens. Treasure tokens, guys. That's always a good thing. Covert Technician. You can see the ninjutsu cost. Whenever Covert Technician deals combat damage to a player, you may put an artifact card with mana value less than or equal to the damage from your hand onto the battlefield. So that's really, so you can get a mana rock out with something like that, you know. Next we got is going to be Sakashima the Imposter. As Sakashima the Imposter comes into play, you may choose a creature in play. If you do, Sakashima comes into play as a copy of that creature, except its name is still Sakashima the Imposter. It's still legendary and it gains. Obviously, you can pay 2 blue and return Sakashima the Imposter to the owner's hand at the end of turn. So definitely a really good card to do some interesting shenanigans with. I thought that was cool. Next we got is going to be Mist Syndicate Naga. You can see the ninjutsu cost. Of course, whenever Mist Syndicate Naga deals combat damage to a player, create a token that's a copy of Mist Syndicate Naga. So you can get more of this guy out and just keep, multiplying the creature. Sakashima of 1,000 Faces. I've used this card in a couple of different decks. Great for copying commanders, because obviously the legend rule doesn't apply to permanents you control. So anytime you're copying your commander, for example, well, there you go. You can just make more and more and do more commander ninjutsu and all kinds of cool stuff. You may have Sakashima of 1,000 Faces enter the battlefield as a copy of another creature you control, except it has Sakashima of 1,000 Faces other abilities. Legend rule doesn't apply for permanents you control, and you can also have this as a partner card, so it's pretty cool for decks with partner. I use this in my coin flip deck. It's really super helpful in that one. Quark the Thumbless. I copied Quark the Thumbless. We got Mistblade Shinobi. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may return target creature that player controls to its owner's hand. So, lots of shenanigans going on. Ninja of the Deep Hours. It's got ninjutsu. Of course, there's the cost. Whenever ninja of the Deep Hours deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. So again, great card for card draw. There's a lot of these ninjas will draw you cards, so that's what you need to get in your hand so you can get some damage in, and then ninjutsu out another one and do all kinds of cool things and more damage. This guy's actually going up in value. He's pretty expensive right now, so hopefully if you have one in your collection, by all means. If not, I think he's going for like about $60, like $50-$60 right now. You may have Sakashima's student enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature on the battlefield, except it's still a ninja in addition to its other types, so you can do cool things. Next we got is going to be Higure, the Still Wind. Of course, whenever Higure, the Still Wind, deals combat damage to a player, you may search your library for a ninja card, reveal it, and put it into your hand. If you do, shuffle your library. And of course, you pay 2. Target ninja creature is unblockable this turn. We've got Changeling Outcast. It can't be blocked, or it can't block and can't be blocked. So the idea, again, is you just pay the 1 for this guy. You swing in, he goes in unblocked, and then, of course, you run your ninjutsu ability to get your ninja out to do its effect, of course, when the ninja gets in. So super cool. I like the whole swap thing because it's kind of a surprise. It's like, oh no, what card's going to come out? There's an unblockable little thing that doesn't really look like it would do much damage. But with a deck like this, out of the nowhere, you're just going to come in and hit with some random ninja. And if you just let the ninjas really pile up on the battlefield, then it can get really serious. And then it's a good way to win the game. Next we got is this one's Dokuchi Silencer. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may discard a creature card. When you do, destroy target creature or planeswalker that player controls. Super cool. Good way to get some targeted removal going on there. Next we got is Inkrise Infiltrator. Again, these are cards that came out of Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. You can pay the black and 3 any to... It gets +2/+2 until end of turn with flying. So it's on theme. It's a ninja, and of course it flies. So there's got to be a player somewhere that doesn't have a block for a flyer at that time when he comes out. Biting Palm Ninja. Again, another Neon Dynasty card. When it enters the battlefield with a menace counter on it, whenever Biting Palm Ninja deals combat damage to a player, you may remove a menace counter from it. When you do, that player reveals their hand and you choose a non-land card from it. Exile that card. Next we got is going to be Nashi Moonsage's Scion. Whenever Nashi Moonsage's Scion deals combat damage to a player, exile the top card of each player's library until end of turn. You may play one of those cards. If you cast the spell this way, pay life equal to its mana value rather than paying its mana cost. So, again, an interesting way to do some more interesting little shenanigans and swappity swaps and all kinds of cool things. If you exile cards and want to play them, it's definitely a way to do some really cool stuff. Kind of like, I think Daxos does something like this. The card Daxos does something like this. I think... What's the other one? Send Triplets? I think Send Triplets is similar to that, in a way. Okay, so we got a guy that's supposed to get through and be unblocked. So, unblock attacking ninjas you control have lifelink. So, obviously, when you have a ninja and it goes through unblocked, well then, you're going to gain some life with that. Super. We got Throat Slitter. It's a rat ninja. Kind of like Shredder. I guess, I have an idea that my... understanding here is that the reason why they have rat ninjas, I have this weird feeling it has something to do with Ninja Turtles and Shredder, because he was a rat, right? Yeah, he was a rat. Ninjutsu, whenever Throat Slitter deals combat damage to a player, destroy target non-black creature that player controls. Again, another way to get some targeted removal in. Next we got is going to be Ink Eyes, Servant of Ani. This looks like it is the... oh, okay, yeah, that's one of the special sets for Magic that came out. Let's see. Whenever Ink Eye Servitive Ani deals combat damage to a player, you may put target creature card from that player's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. And of course, he can regenerate it, so it's really super, super helpful. Yeah, it's a From the Vault card. So this particular version, now you can get other versions. There is a really cool Secret Lair version of this, and of course the original I think was back in the Kamigawa block. Guys, Kamigawa was a set that came out, I want to say like 2006 maybe, 2005, somewhere in there. It's been a long time, and I really like the fact that they did return to this plane. There's a lot of interesting things about it, and a lot of beautiful scenery and art on a lot of these cards, and it just didn't get a lot of love for a long time, and it did get some card support at one point, but now that we've returned to this plane, there's a lot more, cool things and interesting. The art on the cards is absolutely phenomenal, really pretty stuff. Obviously, this card, Ninjutsu ability to activate costs 1 less to activate, so very, very good coupon card if you're going to want to get your ninjas out a lot faster. Other ninjas and rogue creatures you control get +1/+1, kind of like almost like a lord card. I think a lord card. Next we got is going to be Satoru Umezawa. Satoru Umezawa, whenever you activate a ninjutsu ability, look at the top 3 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand and the rest in the bottom of your library in any order. This ability triggers only once each turn. Each creature card in your hand has ninjutsu, and of course it gives you the value for that. So super useful. Next we got is going to be Ingenious Infiltrator. It's got a ninjutsu ability. Whenever a ninja you control deals combat damage to a player, you can draw a card. So obviously as you're stacking up ninjas, you're going to get a lot of card draw for that. That's probably why there's a Reliquary Tower and of course the Thought Vessel in here, because if you do get a lot of card draw, you're going to want to make use of that. Next we got is going to be Kitose, the Silent Spider. When Kitose, the Silent Spider, enters the battlefield, exile target card other than a basic land card from an opponent's graveyard. Search that player's graveyard, hand, and library for any number of cards with the same name as that card and exile them. Then that player shuffles. For as long as you control Kitose, you may play one of the exile cards, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast it. Now, obviously, in Commander, you can probably only exile one thing, because it's going to be one of 99 cards, so definitely, but you want to go dig up something really cool, so that's the point of using him, I think. I think that's what my my roommate and friend here, he was thinking of, is so you can go get something and put it out. It's really cool. All right, let's see what we got. We got Fallen Shinobi. Again, it's one of the cards that came out in Modern Horizons recently, so they did have some ninja support recently before Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, so that's kind of neat. Whenever Fallen Shinobi deals combat damage to a player, that player exiles the top 2 cards of their library. Until end of turn, you may play those cards without paying their mana costs. Super great. Fun stuff. Alright, so we got Silent Blade Ani. Whenever Silent Blade Ani deals combat damage to a player, look at that player's hand. You may cast a non-land card in it without paying that card's mana cost. That is just so broken. Granted, it does cost 7. Pretty high CMC to get this guy out, but when you use him, I mean, wow, it's super powerful. If you ninjutsu him out, I guess you save a little bit, but still pretty cool. We got some unblockable stuff here. So obviously Ornithopter, it's a flyer. It's free to get out. Free. You put it out. It plays for free. Obviously you can see if it's going. If you ninjutsu and this goes back to your hand, you can play it again and ninjutsu. Really super easy card to play in a deck like this. Ginger Brute. It can't be blocked. This turn except by creatures with haste. Of course you want to swing in with this guy. Get your damage or get your swing in so you can ninjutsu one of your ninjas into play. Next we got is going to be this guy. He's unblockable. That is why he's in there. He's a 1/1 little unblockable, but the idea is to get him in and get your ninjutsu off. Next we got is Slither Blade. Of course he can't be blocked. Again, it's only cost one blue to get him out, so Really cheap cost little guys that are unblockable are like your engine of this deck to kind of go flip into some really cool ninjas. Next we got here is another unblockable little merfolk. Super good. Next we got is going to be Wing Crafter. Now this has Soul Bond. It's not a mechanic you see too often, but you may pair this creature with another creature when either enters the battlefield. They remain paired for as long as you control both of them. Now, as long as Wing Crafter is paired with another creature, both have flying. So you can actually put two things out and swing in for two things and ninjutsu out two things if you have the mana to get the ninjutsu out. Next we got Tetsuko Umezawa Fugitive. Creatures you control with power or toughness 1 or less can't be blocked. This is super useful. Of course, a Thieving Skydiver. You can pay his kicker. When he enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, you gain control of target artifact with converted mana cost X or less. If that artifact is an equipment, attach it to this creature. Thieving Skydiver. So really kind of cool way to grab someone's equipment. Invisible Stalker. I've actually used this guy in a couple decks. He is hexproof, so he stays on the battlefield if he's out. But, of course, he can't be targeted removed. But if you're going to ninjutsu him, you're going to swing in with him because he's unblockable, and then ninjutsu him and then put your ninja out. So, super good. Next we got is Thassa, God of the Sea. As long as she's indestructible, as long as your devotion to blue is less than 5, Thassa isn't a creature. Of course, at the beginning of your upkeep, you can scry 1, or you can pay the 2, the blue and the any. Target creature you control can't be blocked this turn. So that's the point of why you would want to put something like this in here, to make sure one of your creatures just, goes in unblocked. You're going to want to, you could do that with your ninja if you want. You can swing in with an unblocked ninja and then of course get out another ninja if you want, however you want to do it, This is kind of this card is so good. It's in a tribal deck running blue, merfolk, ninjas, zombies, you name it. It's a $60 card nowadays. I wish I would have bought a bunch back in the day. This was only like $10 at one point. Not anymore. Creatures you control have horsemanship. There's not a lot of people playing horsemanship these days. There might be a couple decks running this guy, or maybe 1 or 2 horsemanship things from, Portal 3 Kingdoms set that came out. Very low print run, I think during the 90s or something, late 90s, early 2000s. Next creature we got is going to be Nether Trader. It has Shadow. So one of the interesting things about Shadow is it tells you on the card text. So basically when you swing in with it, it gets through because it's very unlikely somebody else has another creature with Shadow on it. It's kind of rare, Now, whenever another creature is put into your graveyard from the battlefield, you may pay black. If you do, you can return Nether Trader from your graveyard to the battlefield. So it's hard to get rid of this guy. Definitely super, super useful to keep him out and keep swinging in so you can get your ninjas out. Next we got is Deothi Voidwalker. Another one with Shadow. Hard to block, hard to, he gets through most of the time. So if a card be put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, exile it with a void counter on it. If you tap and sacrifice this guy, you can choose an exile card an opponent owns with a void counter on it. You may play it this turn without paying its mana cost. So super good. Free stuff is always a good thing. Next we're going to look at is Dimir Infiltrator. It's just an unblockable, but of course if you want to transmute it, you can. So it gives you some options. You can use the guy for unblockable, or you can go get, something that's for that cost. You can put it in your hand. You can tutor something out for that cost. Next we got is Cridle of Baldur's Gate. Obviously this came out in the recent D&D set. Adventures in Forgotten Realms. Whenever Cridle of Baldur's Gate deals combat damage to a player, that player loses 1 life and mills a card. Then you gain 1 life and scry 1. Whenever you attack, you may pay 2. If you do, target creature can't be blocked this turn. Again, the idea is to make unblockable creatures so you can ninjutsu out a ninja, obviously. That's the idea. Lots of ninjas. Flying and Death Touch. When Baleful Strix enters the battlefield, you can draw a card. It's a cheap play, too. It's only a blue and a black to play it, so good way to get some. And this little flyer can swing in, and then of course you can ninjutsu out something cool. Next we got is going to be Ukima, Stalking Shadow. You can partner with these other cards, but the idea here is that it can't be blocked. And when it leaves the battlefield, it deals X damage to target player, and you gain X life, where X is its power. So, again, another unblockable. So, pretty cool stuff there. We got Vela, the Nightclad. Other creatures you control have Intimidate. When Vela, the Nightclad, or another creature you control leaves the battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life. Because obviously, when you ninjutsu something, that creature leaves the battlefield, and you put out something. You see where I'm going? I can see the synergy where that would become useful. So there is some life drain built into that. So guys, those are all the creatures. I really like what he did here in this deck. I got to give him credit. It's really quite fascinating what he's got going on. Let's go ahead and take a look at Yuriko one more time and think about her for a second. Of course, you've got your Commander Ninjutsu. And of course, whenever a ninja you control, so all the ninjas that you do get out, whenever they deal combat damage to a player, you reveal the top card of your library and put it in your hand. So that gets some card draw right into your hand. And of course, each opponent loses life equal to that card's converted mana cost. So you can really see where this is going. You know, try to get some ninjas in. And then, of course, get Yuriko to trigger. She can deal some damage and get some card draw. So I really like his tribal themes. My friend and roommate, he really likes to make a lot of tribal decks and synergize them as best as he possibly can. And they're not that expensive. I will digress a little bit. There are some cards in there, especially with some of these foils. This guy in foil he's got to be up there. But nonetheless, if you get the regular versions, the non-foils, you're probably not spending too much here. You can see a lot of these creatures are just kind of little 1/1s or little unblockable guys. I know I have these kinds of cards just buried in my collection, and if you can buy them, they're like 10, they may be like 20 cents or $1 at most on some of them. So building this deck doesn't appear to be that expensive. I mean, granted, the Cavern of Souls, yeah, I get it. That's kind of pricey. Shizo's Death Warehouse or Storehouse, I know this is worth something. But you can always get a non-foil version, obviously, and do that. And you don't necessarily have to run all these cards exactly. Remember, the fun part about Magic is you get an idea for a deck when you watch a video like this. And those ideas kind of, you know, spark your imagination and say, oh yeah, I could use that synergy. Or you could say, you know what, I like that, but I also want to change it here, here, and here and do something a little different. And at the beginning of the video, remember I said there's other ways to play this deck. Again, you could pull up really large cost things if you want to just make it as a damage dealing deck. You know, you get the ninjas in and then you flip up a 10 cost something and deal 10 damage to everybody. You see where I'm going with that? That is another way to play the deck. But this particular deck I think is really fun and very effective. Especially if you're playing a lot of tribal stuff, and it really sort of it really is on theme right now for Kamigawa, especially if you're playing ninjas. I don't know if there's enough samurai out there to build a samurai deck yet, but you never know. I'm sure, you know, somebody's going to get creative and build a nice samurai deck. But guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Please like and subscribe to my channel. I want to keep making more cool videos like this, and, you know, and I enjoy playing these kind of decks and making them. It's really a whole lot of fun. But, you know, guys, if you have any questions about it or just want to make a comment, feel free to drop it underneath the video. And, you know, I'm here to help you guys, of course. Hopefully answer any questions if possible. But by all means, keep an eye on this, because I'm going to have a few more deck videos coming out here shortly. But thanks for watching, guys. And you guys have a wonderful and amazing time playing Magic in these crazy times that we live in. Bye now.